that every time?
She's mad because I won't go give her her own feed. I'm not feeding her. I think I'm gonna do 2 gates right here. One there, one there.
So you have to open that big one every time?
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna go take the old nesting box out of the old coop and the roost out of there, and then tonight we'll lock them in again. I just got back from town. The hydraulic ram that I ordered about 2 weeks ago finally showed up. We had some minor issues with shipping, but now the big concern is whether or not the hydraulic ram is an exact match. When I called and talked to their salesman, he pulled all the measurements that I wanted off of it, and everything looked great. But until I actually get it mounted to the excavator, I'm not gonna know for sure. This is the hydraulic cylinder. This is one of the pins that came with it. I'm gonna get the other damaged cylinder, bring it out here, put them side by side, and see if they are in fact an exact match. Okay, here's the pin out of the new cylinder. If it's the right ram, the pin should fit in both cylinders just fine. A little bit snug in that one, as it should be. Yeah, it's the right cylinder. I'm gonna clean everything up really well. Then I'm gonna try to pull the dust seals out of the old cylinder and carefully put them in the new cylinder, because the dust seals are gone on this thing. Look at that. I just pulled that out with my hand. I'm gonna try to take the seal from the old cylinders, at least temporarily, until I can get some new seals. And then I'm gonna put it on. I still have to weld the tabs on, but I should be running this thing around in just a couple of hours. After a long cold winter, Cedar and I took the time to trim the nails on the chickens that had not yet worn their nails down from scratching. And the baby goats are loving their little pasture out here in front of the goat barn, especially as the snow is going away. It's always fun to sit and watch those baby goats, but after a few minutes, I get tired just watching them. It seems that I'm getting a first-hand lesson in how hard parts are going to be in the future to find for things like my excavator. But all of a sudden, finding parts for just about anything has become complicated. So the fact that I even got my hands on the exact ram that goes on this machine is without a question a blessing. But once I found the hydraulic ram in Louisiana at Gulf South Parts, now shipping has completely changed as well. So I just was talking with my son Rhett about the ribbon or the horizontal board. It's right there on the. And the question I asked Rhett was whether to bring that ribbon all the way around into this little spot right here. And I don't know if it's kind of sixes, I think, but Cedar's not here, of course. I'm going to do it because I think it's going to look right to continue that around. Rhett suggested the same thing. I told Rhett if Cedar doesn't like it, it's his fault. I really should talk about how well that 1.5-inch strap that I put across the front of the house has secured and flattened out this wood that wants to cup a little bit. The walls are still exposed in the shop, so I'm going to just have to put the 2x6 backing in there that I would otherwise do. But if you didn't have access to the backing behind the board and batten, and you wanted to secure it in a way where it's going to last, that 1/4-inch strap is secured to every stud, and then I'm able to secure every piece of 1x12 to that strap, and it's I think it's 3/16 thickness, So it's stiff enough that it's not going to go anywhere. So it turned out exactly like I hoped it would turn out. The only real concern that we have at this point is whether or not, I should say, the only real concern I have is whether I'm going to have to sand the entire front down, or at least the second story, so when we stain this, it's consistent. Or the other option is I restain the new stuff with the gray, which I may have to do anyway, just to kind of get a baseline for everything. Because there are other parts of the house that I've already stained, but I didn't put as much stain on the other sides of the house as I did right here on the front, because we were trying to figure out how many coats it was going to take to get it as dark as we wanted, and that's kind of where we stopped, because we were having such a hard time getting that pigment in the stain to be consistent. But I think we got it figured out. I think we're going to go a darker gray, and really the only concern that I have at this point is how far am I going to be able to get with the siding before I run out. I'm terrified that I'm not going to get anywhere near as far as I thought I would. I've tried to use every piece that was usable, even if it was too narrow potentially. You saw that in the initial layout. There were some big gaps, but because I did do 3-inch batten strips, it hides it really well. So I'm excited about it. Cedar wants me to build some pergola windows over both of them, and maybe some sort of a gable decoration of some kind. I don't know. I'm liking it though. It's starting to kind of come together. Once I get the front porch repositioned the way it's supposed to be with the bigger beams, I'm really excited. The last potential thing I'm going to do to the house as far as the outside is concerned might just have to do with some stucco stone and potentially getting rid of all the tin. The weather was supposed to be really bad today. It was supposed to rain, and thank heavens we're not getting... Hey, Ruby! There you are. Get down here. This morning I went to take her for a ride, and I let her down for 1 second. She took off. But anyhow, weather was supposed to be bad. It's not bad. I want to get this finished up. I want to get this... I want to get the most important parts of the house as far as the visual, the places where people are going to see the most, which is this front and the walkway to the front door. That's where I'm being very selective about the wood. Anyhow, I want to get this corner finished, then I can start across the front and start figuring stuff out. You're not supposed to run away. You're not supposed to do that, Ruben. You're all wet. I'm going to have to dry you off. You're all soaking wet, Ruby. You're all soaking wet. Come on. Come here, right here. You know, if I had simply left the Doug fir unstained and let Mother Nature and the sun do their work on it, like this wood that I'm reinstalling on the first floor here, this color and this aged look that the Doug fir now has is exactly what both Cedar and I wanted. The second I put a sander on this wood, it's going to change the look entirely. But I really don't have too many other options, and I've got to get this over and done with. We are within a couple of months of our second daughter Cheyenne getting married, and we're going to have all kinds of people around here this summer. And while I try to convince myself that I don't care what people think, I do, and my wife does as well. So I need to do my part to get the house tightened up so we can both be proud of it as we share this with our friends and family. I really make an effort to be positive when I do my little narrations on these videos, but I do not pre-script them in any way. I think about what may be going on in the world around us, and oftentimes I think about what's going on in our life and how those two things regularly collide, just like they did this last week with the shipping on my hydraulic cylinder. But ultimately, Cedar and I and our family have a tremendous amount of gratitude for all the things that we have. And I've said this in the past, but I do not watch the evening news or the news of any kind. As a matter of fact, I went as far as removing the stock market and the cryptocurrency apps that I had on my phone, where I would regularly monitor what I thought were some of the first indicators of change in our economy. But now if I'm looking for something to do on my phone, I play solitaire instead, because ultimately it seems to be a better use of my time. Dang it. I took the siding off of 3 sides of the house, and I was hoping that there was enough wood in there to make at least 2 sides usable. I haven't even gotten across the front, and I'm already at a point where I have to put wood up that I don't want to put up. So the issue is going to be where the old wood and the new wood meet up. I don't want it to be in an obvious place. I don't want it to be in the middle of a long wall. This is going to be a pain. I'm going to have to take stuff off the front of the house to make this work. It had to be done, but I'm going to end up with way more firewood than I anticipated, I'm afraid. This is basically what I have left right here. This wood, and then this stuff here. This is going to be fun, getting this figured out, that's for sure. I'm going to take this hose down and get it cut in half. This is the hose they put on basically to bypass the damaged cylinder once it got damaged. These fittings right here are metric fittings, and I know if I go to the hydraulic shop, they're not going to have them. But fortunately, the connections on the cylinder are standard iron pipe threads, so I'm basically going to go down and just get that fitting put on both, cut this in half and get that fitting put on both ends so I can run the cylinder. It's been snowing and raining all day, but it's about to dry out. I'm going to hope it dries out enough that I can burn that cylinder in, and then I want to go give this thing a go, although it's kind of muddy today, but I'm going to move around with it and do some stuff and see if I can't figure this thing out. Ultimately, if I could get the stinking excavator back online and get all the problems figured out with it, I really would have nothing to complain about. But I feel like the Oscar incident that happened this last week is a perfect indication of just how disconnected that group of people are from the rest of the world. But the good news is that comedian should end up being the wealthiest comedian to ever live after that incident. Now let me talk about what I'm doing as I'm welding the tabs back in place for the new cylinder. But I'm trying to be very careful not to pull those tabs too far one direction or the other. So I'm welding back and forth on each side. And every time as I finish up welding, I grab a hold of the old pin that I'm using to make sure everything's square and straight. I grab a hold of that pin and make sure it still moves around without resistance. The pin should sit square, but should still be able to move. And as I've welded this in, I've been able to keep the pin loose. When I found the hydraulic cylinder in Louisiana, I also found a replacement boom. If I ever wanted to change out this boom for an exact replacement that was not damaged, I know where one is. But I do not anticipate doing this. I just welded that in with 6011 and the pin is still loose. That was the thing that was most important to me, is that as I'm welding, I not heat it up too fast on either side to pull those tabs. And it's good. The pin is loose. I'm going to let it cool down. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to go over it with 7018, hit it with a can of spray paint. Then I'm going to play catch with a big rock. And as if the world isn't crazy enough, I also listened to the leader of a first world country talk about the upcoming food shortages. He got my attention. The topics that were once thought to be only conspiracy are now commonplace conversation in the workplace, regardless of what direction you might lean. When was the last time you heard the leader of one of the greatest countries in the world talk about food shortages? I don't know that it's happened in a setting like that in a long, long time. And as I am a worrier by nature, on the one hand, that was a piece of information that I could have done without. But on the other hand, I now must choose what I will do with that piece of information, as you must do as well. And if you do nothing, you have no one to blame but you. for those of you that have made an effort to get out in front of things like potential food shortages, I commend you and I'm proud of you. And for those of you that assume there will always be food on the shelves at the grocery store, and that somebody will always be there for you to deliver your DoorDash, I truthfully hope your life never changes, but unfortunately, if you look around, it has already changed, and you know it. So again, I have found that getting out in front of things and being prepared in a reasonable way for things that may affect my family is not only wise, I also believe that as a father that I have a responsibility to my family to be prepared because I have no one else that I can point to. Holy cow. Okay, all that I have left to do is top off the hydraulic tank. Before, the hydraulic pump was constantly turning, which put a load on the engine when I was starting it. So now I'm hoping it should just start up without any effort. I used to have to kind of engage that control to get it to start easier. Then when that's done, I'm gonna give her a go here and see how it does. The excavator boom has officially been repaired. The new hydraulic cylinder is in place and it works perfect, although I've got a little bit of air in it. But I'm fairly certain that there's still something going on with the hydraulic system. It feels like the main pump is constantly engaged, so I've got to get that figured out.